Grosh was sharpening his axe when the messenger arrived at the courtyard, gasping for breath and requesting an audience with Vez'nan. The gigantic warrior didn't pay attention to the rushed speech until he heard the words primal terrors. Intrigued, he insisted on taking the messenger before the Dark Lord himself. In the throne room, Grosh sat in silence and listened. The messenger spoke of horrendous beasts emerging from freshly opened fissures in the mountain. He felt the rage burning up inside. His muscles flinched, but his expression remained stern, not to give away his reaction, for he remembered the place from where the beasts were coming through. He couldn't allow himself to lose control of his emotions in front of the Dark Lord. He needed his approval now more than ever. He had almost abandoned all hope, but now his chance had arrived, and he wouldn't allow anyone to take it away from him. The things he had seen had haunted his every dream, twisting them into terrible nightmares. He hasn't had a full night of sleep since that fateful day when he returned home from hunting, only to find his entire village destroyed and his people murdered. He could still clearly recall the sight of his family, torn apart into pieces by the jaws of those monstrous creatures. He had followed them, but they were too many and too strong for him to hunt alone. He managed to kill a few, but the bigger enemies proved to be an impossible task. After all, he was only a young boy at the time, and his training as a warrior was not due for another cycle. He used to be filled with hope for his future, and how his family would be so proud, but now there was no one left to guide him down the path of a warrior. He looked far away and wide for any survivors with no luck. He was the only one left. He knew that to get his revenge he had to look for help. He had remembered a legend his mother had once told him. A legend of a cave with a path to a new land, filled with magic and wonders beyond his imagination. And so, he used every ounce of strength left in his body, searched for the mythical land, but all proved to be for naught. Grosh had lost hope of finding the elusive place when, on one of his expeditions, he felt the cold stare of evil eyes upon him. When he turned to meet the villainous gaze, the monstrous creature, his jaws fresh with blood, reared his ugly head in Grosh's direction and attacked. He knew resistance was futile, and so he ran as fast as he could, feeling the ground rumbling and the loud crunching of trees crushed underfoot by the beast, desperate to sink his toothy jaws into Grosh's body. With one last reserve of energy, he blindly shoved himself through a fissure in the mountain. It was just small enough for him to barely fit through, but he managed to get inside just in time to hear the impact of the monster's head on the entrance, followed by the rumbling stones, completely blocking the exit of the tiny cave he found himself inside. Grosh left the cave, more determined than ever before, and made himself a promise. He would not rest until he avenged his family and eradicated the beast who had slain them one by one. To see that vow fulfilled, he would need to become the most powerful warrior the world has ever seen, and he knew just where to start his campaign. His path of vengeance had only just begun.